So, I've had this complaint from many students, especially graduate students who want to study abroad. Most of you have raised concern about the fact that you don't get recommendations from your professors and your lecturers. Yes, that is one thing that you need to do. That is one key point you need to consider before you take the decision to apply for schools abroad, because some of these professors, they are busy. They are very busy. They are lecturing in different schools. Somebody is lecturing in Legon, he's lecturing in UPSA, he's lecturing in other schools, other private universities. So they don't have time to actually sit down and write recommendation for you. So I always advise that before you actually apply to the school, before you submit the person's name as your referee, or as someone who will be writing recommendation for you, I have always been advising that one, contact the person, reach out to the person, and tell the person that I want you to write recommendation for me. Because schools abroad, they do not just look at your CGPA. No, especially those who want to apply for graduate courses, graduate programs. Please make sure that before you submit someone's name, email address, and professional address, make sure that that person is willing and ready to write that recommendation for you, because that recommendation is an important document that the school will actually evaluate against your admission. They will look at every detail that the person is going to put on that recommendation. So it has to be written on time and submitted on time. I know people who have submitted admission to schools, and as at now, as at this time that I'm talking to you, those recommendations have not been received by those respective schools. And it hurts, because sometimes you've paid application fees, you are waiting for your professor, your former lecturer to submit recommendation on your behalf, and the person is not doing that, and you keep chasing. I have seen people, especially those of you who went to affiliated universities. Oh, this university is affiliated to that university, so they ask you to take recommendation from that school. It is very painful. It's very stressful, because you'll be chasing that professor. I know someone from Accra Technical University who was chasing the professor up and down, and later on, he was found in a different school, and the student had to be on that person. So please, before you submit your application to any school, the person that you are providing as your reference, make sure that the person has time and the person is willing to write for you. The second thing I want to advise is, make sure that the person is not just submitting generic recommendation for you, because most of these professors, they have some recommendations that they have written, and they submit on behalf of students for every student. No, let that professor know that you don't want generic recommendation. Say, you taught me this course at this department, and these were my contributions in class. This was the insight, this was the contributions, or these were some of the things I brought, or these are some of the qualities I possess. Let the lecturer, let the professor write something good, something solid about you. Don't just go and sit somewhere and let the professor write anything about you. If possible, write it yourself and give it to the professor, that say, I have this sample. If you can consider it, if you can review it and add your opinion before submitting, I think I'll be grateful. Do you get it? Because the recommendation letter is also an important document that the school evaluates against your admission. So I have met certain graduate coordinators who will tell you that we do not just look at CGPA 3.0, 3.5, first class upper, second class upper, second class lower. They don't look at that. First class, no. They are looking at different things. Your CV, we'll talk about your CV and your transcripts in another video. But today I'm focusing on the recommendation, the email and the name that you submit to the school, which is actually going to email your professor to send the recommendation. Please, don't just go for generic recommendation. Whatever your contributions were in school, maybe you were part of the SRC team, or maybe you were very articulate, you were very active in that particular class, maybe political science class, or maybe whatever course that professor taught you. Make sure that the person highlights your achievement, the person highlights your contribution, the person do an overview of your entire years that you spent in that school, because the person is writing a recommendation on your behalf. The person is writing a recommendation for you. So don't just go for anything generic. No. If possible, write something yourself and humbly present it to the professor that say, this is what I have put together, and I would like you to have a look at it, so that you can actually also review it and, if possible, make some amends before submitting. Because some of the schools will ask you, do you want to waive the right of seeing your recommendation that the teacher or the professor is writing on your behalf? So make sure that whatever that is being submitted in your name is something that is good, not something that has been sent for different students. Don't do that. Make sure that your recommendation is something good. The third thing that I also want to talk about here is, make sure that you know who is writing your recommendation for you, and that person has maybe taught you before, or that person has you have sat in the person's class. The person know who you are. Some of the schools will just tell you, oh, go to this professor, he can write it for you, or go to this professor. No. Make sure that whoever is writing the recommendation for you, the person knows you very well, into to dito, so that the person can say good things about you, so that the person can write something about you, not just anybody. Don't just go for any professor. No, go for someone who has time to write the thing for you. Make sure that what the person is writing is not generic, and make sure that this is somebody who has taught you before, somebody you have good relationship with, somebody that you can call on the phone. As I speak to you now, there is a student who has submitted a professor's name to write recommendation for him, and the professor has also gone to Nigeria, and he's trying to reach the professor, and he's not picking the call. Do you get it? These are some of the painful things that students go through. So make sure that before you submit somebody's name as reference, as referee who will write recommendation for you, you know that person very well. You know what that person can write. Don't just go for anybody. The final thing that I want to add is, start this journey on time. Start the process on time, because it takes time. I have gone to a lot of graduate coordinators, and they will tell you that most students will wait for the funding period to actually pass before the recommendation letters will come in. Start chasing your professors, start calling them, go to the school every day, make sure that you sit on them, they write for you. Don't delay, don't wait, because when you wait and you go to sleep thinking that the professor will submit before you realize it will be too late for you. Some of the professors too, they are not accustomed to the system. It's something new to them. You know, earlier we used to submit hard copies recommendation, but this time around they submit soft copies. A link will be sent to them, and then they will fill and submit. Make sure that they understand, and tell them to check their email regularly. Make sure they check their email on time. Some of the emails, because it's the first time that they are receiving from that source, it goes to their junk or spam inboxes. It go to the spam or the junk folder. So they should check there. They will find it there. Do you get it? Make sure that you do these follow-ups. Those are the things that will help you. Don't just apply for a school and go to, oh, I have provided, oh, sir, please, can you write? No. Follow up. Make sure that you are checking that everything has been submitted before the deadline, because those of us coming from Africa and other parts of the world who are international students, one thing that we always look out for is funding. So if you're applying for a school and you don't get funding, then why did you apply in the first place? Fine, you can look for campus employment and you can look for other scholarship opportunities, but make sure that all your documents, especially your recommendation list, your people who are writing recommendation for you, submit on time. Get it right. Arabono Koso. Make sure that you follow my page, you like my page, you comment, and you subscribe to my channel. I love you all. See you all on the brighter side of life. Get it right. Arabono Koso.